Your boathouse permit is denied, Mr. Harrison. Those 7 words, delivered by an HOA president half my age, unleashed a chain of events that cost her everything. When she slapped me with threatened do law 1,000 daily fines for building on my own lake, she never imagined I'd respond by crafting a floating mansion that left her powerless. After 40 years engineering structures to defy hurricanes, I wasn't about to let a clipboard-toting real estate agent dictate what I could do on my own land. Now, I stand proudly on my shoreline while she seethes, helpless, as my luxurious floating home has become the envy of the neighborhood. What happens when bureaucrats tangle with the wrong engineer? They create their own worst nightmare. My name is James Harrison. At 58, after designing bridges across America to withstand Category 5 storms, I cashed out my retirement SAVYNGS for what the realtor dubbed a slice of Tennessee paradise, 15 acres with a private, 3-acre lake. Crystal clear water teamed with base, framed by oak trees standing for generations. The deed explicitly granted us exclusive water rights, confirmed by our lawyer, the county records office, and the pre-VYS owner. My wife, Emily, and I had simple retirement dreams, morning coffee watching the sunrise over the water, teaching our grandkids to fish from a modest boathouse, and peaceful evenings by the lake. The day after we settled in, I was staking out the shoreline for our boathouse when a sleek black BMW SUV rolled up our gravel drive. Out stepped Lisa Bennett, the 35-year-old head of the Architectural Review YEW Committee, clutching the HOA manual like a weapon. Mr. Harrison, she said, offering a firm handshake and a polished smile. Welcome to Cedar Grove. I see you're planning a waterfront project. You'll need to submit plans to my committee for approval. Her tone was courteous but sharp. When I explained this was private property with deeded water rights, she shook her head with rehearsed patience. Every new owner thinks that at first. Section 12.3 states all external structures VY-SIBL from community property must follow HOA guidelines. She pointed to a faint hiking trail barely VY-SIBL through the trees. That path overlooks your lake, so we have jurisdiction. As she drove off, she left me with a parting shot. I wouldn't fight this, Mr. Harrison. The HOA always wins. I didn't rush into war unprepared. For 3 weeks, I drafted plans for a modest 450-square-foot boathouse, a single story, built with natural stone and timber to blend with our home, tucked discreetly among the trees. It met every county environmental standard: proper setbacks, sustainable materials, minimal shoreline impact. The county inspector, reviewing my work, said, "James, in 30 years, this is the most thorough application I've seen. You've covered everything." With county approval secured, I started laying the groundwork. The foundation stakes were barely in when 3 cars screeched to a halt at my property line. Lisa, flanked by 2 board members, stormed down to the lake, her heels sinking into the mud. "Cease and desist immediately," she barked, shoving a letter into my hands. This VY-OLAT 17 HOA guidelines. I calmly presented my county permits and deed. "This lake is mine. The HOA has no say here." Her eyes narrowed as she flipped open her manual to page 37, paragraph 4. All structures VY-SIBL from community property must maintain aesthetic harmony, she said, pointing to the distant trail through a quarter-mile of woods. That's community property with a VYEW of your lake. Within 48 hours, the HOA called an emergency meeting scheduled, I later learned, during my grandson's birthday party, which I'd casually mentioned to Lisa. Without hearing me out, they voted 5-2 against my boathouse, citing absurd contradictions. It was both too ornate and too minimalist, oversized, yet lacking presence. Their rejection letter threatened to law 1,000 daily fines and legal action. My first small win came when I requested the meeting minutes through a legal records request. Their secretary slipped up, including an email from Lisa sent before the vote. "We need to stop this now. If Harrison builds, others will demand the same freedom. Waterfront control is non-negotiable." This wasn't about rules, it was about power, control, and something deeper I couldn't yet pinpoint. That night, I called my neighbor, Tom Grayson, a 72-year-old retired maritime lawyer 3 properties down. He'd once outmaneuvered Lisa over his historically accurate teal front door, which clashed with the HOA's beige-only palette until he proved it matched the original 1890s farmhouse color. Their rules defined structures as permanently attached to land, Tom said, poring over my documents at his kitchen table. But what about something that floats? That sparked an 11-week research marathon. I dove into maritime law, floating architecture, and the HOA's 126-page bylaws. Consulting 3 specialized attorneys, I uncovered a gem. Floating structures on private water, if properly designed, are classified as vessels, exempt from traditional building codes. The county building commissioner agreed. A floating structure on private water with self-contained systems isn't under the same rules, as long as it meets maritime safety standards. My engineering buddy, WYD, an offshore platform expert, chuckled when I called. They won't let you build a boathouse, so you're building a house that's technically a boat? That's peak engineer logic. I spent $3,200 on legal consultations to lock down every detail, finding 7 precedents backing my plan. The maritime lawyer's verdict. The HOA can regulate land-based structures, but a floating home isn't in their bylaws. I double-checked nothing about floating structures, vessels, or boats appeared in the document. The closest rule capped permanent docks at 10 feet from shore, which actually helped me, since my design wouldn't be fixed to anything. My second win came at the county records office. The lake wasn't just outside HOA jurisdiction, it wasn't even on their original property maps from 15 years ago. The trail had been extended to overlook it without proper filings, weakening their viability claim. That night, showing Emily my sketches, I said, they picked a fight with an engineer who spent 40 years beating hurricanes. Let's show them what that means. Instead of a simple boathouse, I designed the Liberty, a 2,600-square-foot floating masterpiece that would harmonize with nature while flexing cutting-edge engineering. I assembled a dream team, my old structural engineering partner from a California highway project, a sustainability architect known for low-impact designs, and a naval engineer whose Arctic platforms defied brutal conditions. The base used advanced pontoon tech with a computerized ballast system for flawless stability. Carbon fiber reinforcements, borrowed from my earthquake-resistant bridge work in Japan, fortified the frame. Solar panels on the roof and south walls generated 140 fan tram of our power, while a closed-loop water system returned cleaner water to the lake. Rainwater fed a hydroponic garden on the east deck. Emily's must have floating herb patch right off the kitchen. We used reclaimed barnwood, weathered copper, and local stone, blending beauty with sustainability. The 2-story design featured floor-to-ceiling windows, wraparound decks, and a rooftop lookout. The master bedroom had a glass floor to watch fish swim below, and a retractable wall turned the living room into an open-air space on warm days. When the architect saw the final renderings, he murmured, "This'll be an architectural digest within a year." The cost? $475,000, nearly our entire retirement nest egg. I braced for Emily's hesitation, but she grinned. "Some things are worth it, James. Let's build our floating rebellion." Construction kicked off on a crisp Monday. We built the pontoon base on temporary shore platforms, fully on our land where the HOA had no reach. By Wednesday, Lisa's BMW was parked at our property line, binoculars in hand. By Friday, the HOA's lawyer had called 3 times. I didn't answer, but my attorney fired back. My client is building a vessel on private property, outside HOA jurisdiction per state maritime law. The pontoon base took 3 weeks and engineering feat, with 9 watertight compartments and advanced stability systems. Neighbors started strolling by, their wariness turning to awe. Several quietly admitted their own projects had been crushed by HOA denials. Our third win came during the first county inspection. Lisa showed up with their lawyer, trying to butt in. The inspector shut them down. "This is a county matter on private land. Please wait off-site." Lisa's face reddened as she watched from afar, powerless. The HOA's cease and desist letter arrived next day, listing 14 supposed violations. My attorney's 27-page reply dissected the law, proving the Liberty was a vessel, not a structure, with photos of our compliance. Lisa upped the ante, getting the HOA president, a retired banker who usually rubber-stamped her calls, to phone me. "James, we'll fast-track a standard boathouse if you submit plans." I replied, "I've moved past that. My floating home doesn't need your approval, as your bylaws confirm." The sweetest moment came when Lisa's husband cornered me at the hardware store, offering $95,000 to halt construction and sell to an approved buyer. I handed him renderings and a note. "Some things aren't for sale, but thanks for admitting it's worth." Every HOA jab fueled me. When they griped about delivery trucks, I scheduled broader, legal delivery windows to keep them guessing. Our fourth win, the Shore Connection's concrete base passed inspection in record time, with the county official noting, "This is overkill for a glorified dock." The HOA tried amending their bylaws to cover floating structures, calling an emergency Saturday meeting. I showed up with my attorney and 5 neighbors I'd rallied by sharing my plans and exposing Lisa's overreach. The amendment needed 75 fan tram approval, 92 of 123 homes. It got 43 votes. Lisa's face fell as her gambit failed. They filed 7 anonymous county complaints next, all dismissed instantly. The inspector revealed, "This is the 8th from the same source. We're requiring IDs now." An EPA complaint about environmental impact flopped too. The officer left praising our filtration system. Our 6th win, a regional paper ran a feature on the Liberty, framing the HOA as resisting progress. 23 neighbors sent support notes. Launch day was perfect. After 6 months, we invited friends, neighbors, and media. A crane lifted the Liberty onto the lake as 60 people cheered. It settled flawlessly, solar systems humming, Emily's herb garden thriving. The news covered it live. I kept it diplomatic. Innovation means navigating rules. Thanks to county officials for ensuring compliance. A week later, as I admired the sunset reflecting off the Liberty, Lisa marched up. "This undermines our guidelines," she snapped. "It's VY Cybele everywhere." I smiled. "Good afternoon, Lisa. Isn't it a fine day to see innovation and rules coexist? It's all legal, your lawyer knows it." That night, Emily and I dined on the upper deck. Tom toasted, "To the prettiest act of malicious compliance I've seen." The Liberty wasn't just a home, it was a stand against petty tyranny. Our property value jumped 42 fan tram, but the real win was bigger. Architectural Digest featured us, sustainability experts studied our systems, and a documentary crew filmed it. Lisa's HOA grip weakened as residents challenged old rules. Then, an unmarked envelope revealed her motive. Her brother-in-law's construction firm, the HOA's sole contractor, overcharged while she pocketed fees. My floating home threatened their racket. I leaked the docs to honest board members. Lisa resigned in an emergency meeting, 2 others followed, and new leadership embraced innovation. 3 years on, the Liberty defines our retirement. Gentle waves, fish under our floor, grandkids fishing off the deck. I've started designing floating homes across 3 states. State lawmakers even used our case for the Reasonable Accommodation Act, curbing HOA overreach. Lisa? She's now seeking a solar panel variance in her new, strict community, citing the law she helped inspire. As I sip coffee on my deck, I've learned this. Know the rules better than the enforcers, document everything, and turn barriers into breakthroughs. The VYEU's sweeter when you've earned it. Have you fought similar battles? Share below. I'll be here, enjoying my lake where they said I couldn't build.